Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. 9:35 a.m. and we are going to cross over to Turkey once again to talk with our report on the ground there, Hasina Gori. She will be wrapping up today. She departs Turkey for back home here in South Africa on a flight this evening. So we're going to talk to her about the wrap up on her coverage in Turkey over the past few days. Hasina Gori, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam. And yes,
How
as
are
we
you?
wrap up,
How are you feeling now? You've spent over a week in Turkey, being exposed to unprecedented, unimaginable devastation that you've never experienced before in your life, and you had to report on those situations. You've now wrapped up. You're seeing mop-up operations happening in Turkey, and you are now on your way home. How are you feeling?
I think I'm feeling extremely overwhelmed, especially, given the news last night that there was a set of earthquakes that hit the Hatay province as well, yesterday. So I think that has been
Again.
very destabilizing.
Mm, mm.
I think especially having been in that area, seeing the devastation that we saw that already took place, and people just trying to pick up their lives once again, or even just understand what happened, and then having an earthquake hit last night, and then another one, just a few minutes later, I think has been quite a shock, especially speaking to people that we met on the ground, and that they especially in the area that we had been based in, Gaziantep, which was about an hour and 25 minutes from the epicenter of this earthquake. And when I spoke to a lot of them last night, many saying they felt the tremors, many saying that they're scared, many saying that, this has just been re-triggering for them. So I think very overwhelming, also very aware of the situation on the ground and how long it's going to be taking. And I think that's conversations that going forward, I hope to be part of, in assistance of how we can assist those who have been affected, not just here in Turkey, but also in Syria, because again, the set of earthquakes affected those that were in that border as well. So I think very overwhelmed, but also humbled as well, and grateful. I think covering a devastation like this makes you reflect on yourself a lot, reflect on the blessings you have, but also on how quickly life can turn in seconds, because many of those people were average middle class citizens living, a normal life, and never expected tragedy like this to affect them. So getting a peek into that has been quite humbling as well. Seeing what happens in first response of relief as well, and in disasters, and what's needed, and how, sometimes the way things happen and logistics can affect people more than the actual natural disaster, like we saw in this case, where access to roads or access to medication and just the bad weather all just catapulted the catastrophe in itself. So I think the experience has been quite eye-opening, life-changing as well, and one that we wouldn't forget. We traveled 1,300 kilometers last week in 6 of the provinces. There were 10 provinces that were affected. We visited at least 6 of them, and at least 7 cities, and many, more than a dozen communities that we went into, and we visited and spoke with people or witnessed the catastrophe. I think it's been quite a long, and we got a very vast idea of just the extent of the damage, which ranged for about 500 kilometers, with that epicenter being in Kahramanmaraş, but affecting areas as far as Syria, and being felt in places like Lebanon and Cyprus. So I think, just traveling through these areas gave us just a sense of how wide and how vast devastation was, how much of our communities have been lost forever. There's areas such as Nordalgi, where homes will not be built there for another few years. All the buildings have been demolished. They've been told that it's inhabitable for them to return to that city. So that city is now being razed completely down. leaving these people completely displaced, and having to restart from, the bare minimum all over again. And I think that's been our experience.
Yeah,
Just being on the ground.
undoubtedly, Hasina. Undoubtedly, life-changing moments as far as your life is concerned. You start seeing things differently. You appreciate things you've taken for granted in the past. It kind of makes you realize and almost grow up overnight and start being more responsible, more humble, more in gratitude, etc., etc. The you know Given that you went to a disaster stricken area and there were aid groups from all over the world, and the Turkish citizens themselves trying to help, was gaining access to this area, organizing transport, etc., the logistics around your trip, how easy or how difficult was that for you?
I think we were lucky to partner with a local travel agency that assisted us with that, because finding transport, or someone who was knowledgeable about the area, but also be able to speak, to the communities and to us, because language is a barrier in those areas, with many people speaking very minimal English. So having access to someone who can speak the Turkish language, translate, as well as Arabic as well, because of the Syrian refugees that are in that region as well. I think we were lucky enough that we found people, but there's also supply and demand issues, because there were so many of aid organizations that were also needing, resources, people that could guide them, people could translate, transport as well. The country has gone through an inflation increase in the prices, but the petrol also going up, and the distance that we traveled meant that we did find it, a little difficult to find things within our budget as well. Similar with accommodation, with many of the hotels, uninhabitable and closed. It was hard to find a good, reasonable accommodation that also wasn't being used as a space for those displaced as well. I stayed in Gaziantep at a hotel, and I was on the first floor. And the one day I opened up the window and looked down, and on the side of the window was cracks in the building. While the facade and the structure seemed very stable, you could see that this building was also affected by that earthquake. It was a little, scary staying in high rises as well. Knowing that the tremors could hit at any point. There were almost 6,000 recorded, and just from last night to this morning, not even this morning, from last night to at least midnight, there was 10 aftershocks recorded
Sure.
in just that area where the set of earthquakes hit. And people said that they felt that earthquake as far as Antalya, which is 9 hours away driving. So I think there was a lot of, these kind of issues that did come out. There was also issues finding restrooms or finding food on the ground, given that most restaurants were closed. Most of the stores had, removed most of the stock, in fears of looting that may occur. There was opportunistic crime that could have happened as well. So I think that logistics, we were lucky that we had specific guides, and we were able to find these kind of things, but it was not just as easy as we expected it to be. And just given the situation on the ground, I think even something as simple as finding a meal, where you would normally just find restaurants and toy restaurants, or a drive-through of sort, we also were then relying on the handouts that were given at certain of the camps that you'd go to, because there was just nowhere else to even buy something as simple as a bottle of water, or
Okay.
in a restroom. Yes.
Hasina, we're going to have to leave it there, inshallah. When you get back, let's do an in-depth interview on your time covering the Turkish earthquake. So, inshallah, as early as next week, we're going to do an in-depth interview. I think there's lots to talk about. Safe journey back home, inshallah. Can't wait to meet you back here at Salaamedia. You take care. Love, salams, and duas.
Walaikum salam.
9:45 news and views on Salaamedia. Standing by to talk to us is South African PhD student. He's going to share his experience in Palestine and just what it means for him and a whole lot more. So please stay with us on the show.